evening and welcome to the news. As usual, a Wednesday package packs an extra punch with views, reviews, previews and interviews focusing on issues affecting Nigerians at home and abroad. We will also track developing stories and give perspectives about issues on the front burner. Tonight, heavy rains and pains. NIMET gives prediction of thunder and deluge for 3 consecutive days. From the legislature, Senate set to conduct holistic investigation in the oil and gas sector. On politics, political parties rally support and embark on membership drive to increase sphere of influence in key states. On the economy, federal government launches economic and financial inclusion framework. We also have our regular packages on security, education, the environment and health. On business and the finance sector, Benny is on hand to count every penny. It's an eclectic package, but don't take my word for it. After all, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I'm Ian Ray John, and this is News Extra. Welcome. All right, let's set sail tonight as many parts of the country are flooded and experiencing frequent rainfall as predicted by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency. But cases of flood as a result of environmental abuses and neglect of expert advice on mitigation has remained a major challenge. In this report, Musa Baba Aliyu takes a look at weather and rain predictions for this year.
The clouds are getting thicker and darker, covering the sky's surface. As the clouds get heavy, they pour in on the earth. Naturally, the earth is expected to immediately absorb the rainwater. However, in most parts of the country, rains are becoming more intense, pouring more water than the earth can absorb immediately, leading to flooding. This was the situation in Lagos State on Wednesday morning due to the downpour. A similar incident were recorded in the FCT, Yobe, and Jigawa states, where major roads and estates were submerged.
It came up here, and this one here could not enter in. That kind of interjections. So it builds up back to the gates.
I couldn't go to my house because of the flood. Rain was everywhere. I was scared of passing, so I have to go. So I'm coming back right now. I have to go somewhere to stay for the flood to reduce.
Other than these very properties that are just around this gate, those are the ones that were affected. No life was lost. The director of a NEMA was here, and she also confirmed to that effect. No life was lost.
NIMET, the weather watchdog agency, has once again put the country on alert. It predicted increased rainfall intensity in the coming days. The rainfall is expected to increase both in frequency and intensity.
Night and early morning rains are said to be a good weather for two. However, reverse could be the case if they are living in a flood-prone area. For them to enjoy the weather, they are advised to take proper care of their drainage and maintain it. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Many thanks for the advice, Musa Baba Aliyu there. Now, the nation has been witnessing increasing rainfall for some time now, with predictions by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, that some coastal states are bound to experience flooding. Now, have these warnings been acted upon, and what are the measures being taken to avert loss of lives? Ayodeji Makinde recalls incidences of rainfall and flood predictions by NIMET.
Now in the thick of the rainy season, and it's only proper we have a perfect understanding of the seasonal climate prediction by NIMET, which is the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, because more rainfall are expected in most parts of the country than we had in the year 2023. And on the 16th of April, the NHS, that's the National Hydrological Services Agency, alerted that there will be risk of flooding in 31 states. And notable among these states are Adamawa State, Akwa Ibom State, Anambra, Bauchi, and the coastal states of Cross River Delta, Edo, and not forgetting Kano, Kogi, and Niger states are also in this list. What would this bring in terms of impact? Of course, it's going to affect population in the country, the food and supply chain of our agriculture, and the livelihood, talking about climate change and its impact. Let's also remember that the federal government has alerted 31 states and their governors on this risk period, which expects to be between the month of April and November. In this period, under review, also the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has parleyed South governors on prevention mechanism to ensure that they reduce the dangers to the barest minimum. What about the length of the growing season for this particular climate prediction? We expect it to be for 85 days in the extreme north to 283 days in the south. Amount of rainfall is expected to be 420 millimeters in the northern fringes, while it will be 3,250 millimeters in the extreme southern region of the country. Lagos State, the center of excellence, is not exempted because predicted rainfall will stand at 1,936.2 millimeters against the long-term average of 1,721.48 millimeters from the month of April to December. The fact is the rain is here. Flooding would also be imminent. But of course, we can really do everything possible to reduce the dangers to the barest minimum. The main thing and the main language, let's stay safe, and of course, let's take all necessary precautions.
All right, many thanks, Ayo, for that. And joining me now in the studio is Professor Sani Abubakar Mashe, former Director General at Nigerian Meteorological Agency, on rainfall and flood mitigation, of course, is the reason why he's here. Many thanks for joining us, Prof.
Thank you. Happy to meet you.
All right. Listening to Ayo Dijin, of course, what we're experiencing at the moment, the rainfall is intense compared to what we've seen in previous years. What could be responsible?
Thank you very much. You see, the essence of the predictions that NIMET, Nigerian Meteorological Agency, has been issuing over the years is actually to alert the nation that the climate of the country has actually been undergoing tremendous dynamics. Some of the things we were not expecting, we are expecting. Now they are actually happening now. And the predictions that have been made this year are not quite different from what we have been observing in the previous years. Areas where we used to have rains starting early, now rains are starting late, and then the intensity of the rain we are having in some areas are exceeding what we are having. And areas that used to have heavy rains, we are expecting to have lesser amount of rain. So it's like the situation is really quite different from what we have been experiencing normally. So as a result of this, the situation now, as far as the rainfall pattern in the country is concerned, is actually, we can say, a big source of worry because of the kind of observations that have been made. That is the predictions that have been made, the things that are likely going to occur in the country.
All right, Professor Mashi, despite the increased rainfall in some parts of the country, some other parts are experiencing low rainfall, like Katsina. Why is that?
You see, the one major manifestations of climate change in the country is the distortion in the pattern of onsets and the ending of the rain, which they call cessation. Areas that we used to have effective rain, effectively starting as early, like say, as the third month of the year, like in Abuja, we can see that rain did not start effectively in Abuja until later in May. So it has also extended to the largely areas that we can say the dry areas of the country, where rains used to be effectively as early as May. At times rain effectively commenced, but they have been so much delayed until June. In fact, right now, yesterday in Katsina, they had to even go out. The Emir of Katsina had to even organize his subject to go out and pray for rain, because it's like up to now the rain has not actually stabilized. And remember, but as soon as it is first week of September, there may not be rain in Katsina. So it's like a very source of worry, the distortion in the pattern of the rain that are being received in the country is actually worrisome. It's really worrisome.
Not only is the distortion, worrisome, the fact that it's also distorting, agricultural activities. Farmers do not know when to start planting what to do and all of that. And then the major challenge, which is flooding. do you think we can do as a people, to stop flooding, since we cannot stop the rains?
You see, the issue is preventive actions are actually very, very, very essential here. Flooding have really come to stay with us. Beside the delay in the onset of the rain, beside the problem that we are facing concerning the delay in the onset of the rain, what the prediction of the Nigerian Meteorological Agency is showing that the amount of rain we are going to receive at certain periods of the year in some places are going to be abnormal. So the implication of this, it means we will always have more than we require at a particular time. And when rain falls in that kind of scenario, then definitely we should expect flooding. And another important problem here now is the frequency of occurrence of intense events like thunderstorms are very high this year. And as a result of this, it means we should always brace up our be prepared that this flooding can always come unannounced. So therefore, what are we supposed to do? Then it means all areas that are supposed to be generating flood, can we reduce the risk of the flood generation? Areas that are supposed to be conveying flood, can we reduce the risk at which they will become overpowered by flooding? These are the kind of things that we are supposed to be well aware of, since the flood have really come to stay with us.
All right. So what will be your general advice as we round up the conversation now to Nigerians?
You see, the thing is, like I said, thunderstorms, the occurrences of thunderstorms, which are intense events, are very high. The frequency of occurrence for the year, as shown in the prediction, are very high. Just within early the week, predictions of the Nigerian Meteorological Agency is showing that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, all over the country, we are going to have a high amount of rain, incidences of thunderstorm, lightning, and even hail. That is these ice crystals that are falling. So the implication of this, it means a lot of activities will be disrupted. Power lines can be easily cut off. Issues of flooding can become very serious. The ice crystal, that is the hail that is falling, can cause serious hazard to human beings, and even the agriculture or the livestock that are even wandering about over the land. So the implication of this, it means we need to be proactive. The predictions are, for instance, in Abuja, the predictions are showing that early morning rain and late evening rains are going to be heavy within this 3. We have already started seeing it. Early in the morning, Abuja, many of us caught unawares, we could not come out of our homes. In the evening now, many people have actually been trapped right now if you go in the city as a result of the rain. So it's like we need to become well prepared. We need to listen to those kind of
predictions by NIMET, of course.
So that we become well prepared. Because if you are given prediction, it means you are forearmed. If you are forearmed, it means you are forewarned. That is exactly the essence.
Fine place to leave the conversation. Many thanks, Professor Sani Mashi, for joining us on News Extra tonight.
Thank you very much.
And just to let you know that residents of Lagos have been dealing with heavy rains and flash floods since Tuesday afternoon. Many have had harrowing experiences, with some still stranded in different parts of the state. Now let's join Diana Ajali to find out the update.
The 2-day non-stop rainfall and associated flash floods have affected most parts of the state. Flash floods caused traffic congestion in some parts of the state, leaving many stranded and crippling activities in the commercial city.
It's been seriously inconvenient. I wasn't even able to go to work because of I don't know if you've seen the road, but it's very flooded.
Since morning, there's no passenger. From Ijesha to CMS, no passenger. From CMS to Aja, no passenger. I was even thinking maybe there will be odor.
It's 2 days right now. I don't know how it will happen when the thing continue by tomorrow.
The Lagos State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokumbo Wahab, has urged residents to be calm that the flash floods caused by the downpour will recede once the rains abate and the level of lagoon goes down. Residents of areas prone to flooding have also been advised to temporarily relocate this season to prevent casualties. Motorists are also being advised not to drive through flooded areas, as it takes only a feet of flowing water with high tide to sweep away a vehicle, irrespective of the number of occupants. In Lagos, Diana Ajale, NTA News.
All right, away from the environment quickly now. The federal government has launched a new initiative to establish an operating model and framework for economic and financial inclusion to transform Nigeria into a $1 trillion economy by 2030. Vice President Kashim Shettima said the initiative symbolizes the commitment of the President Bola Tinubu administration to enhance financial and economic inclusion across Nigeria. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila feeds us.
The project, designed to combat poverty and promote sustainable economic growth from the ground up, to set up an operating model for economic and financial inclusion. Vice President Kashim Shettima noted that the idea is to provide access to capital and reduce poverty through legislative interventions and critical policies.
I urge each of you involved in this initiative to recognize the weight of your responsibility. We have been uniquely blessed and positioned to change the trajectory of our nation from a nation rich in potentials to reality. You have all been entrusted with the vital national assignment, and I have full confidence that you will bring your best efforts to ensure its success.
Since the signing of the accord, a lot of engagement has been going on. We appreciate the fact that we were able to source funding from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, under their partner, which is the Lagos Business School, whereby they are funding the operationalization of the accord itself.
Since 2015, we've been running an initiative called the Sustainable and Inclusive Digital Financial Services Initiative. And that has been around how do we catalyze financial inclusion in Nigeria. And we've worked in the space of research, advocacy, capacity building, as well as just information and engagement.
The project manager seeks to identify the right platforms and structures aimed at galvanizing the relevant authorities to key into the initiative. Federal government had on April 25, 2024, unveiled the ASO Accord on Economic and Financial Inclusion, a blueprint designed to achieve universal access to financial services. From the State House, Abdurrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
From the State House, let's move to the National Assembly now, as Senate has set up an ad hoc committee to conduct holistic investigation of the oil and gas industry. Among terms of reference of the committee being chaired by Senate Leader Okweyemi Bamidele are to check parameters used by NNPC Limited to examine shipments, direct sale, direct purchase, arrangements, as well as a timeline for completion of repair of government-owned refineries. National Assembly correspondent Lamiali reports.
A motion from Senator Asukwa Ekpenyong in relation to importation of substandard diesel into Nigeria opened the floodgates of concerns from lawmakers on some critical issues in the oil and gas industry, which over time remain unresolved.
Toxic emissions from the diesel contribute to respiratory illnesses and other health issues, as well as degrade engine life that would force consumers to deal with frequent vehicle and generator breakdowns with attendant higher maintenance costs.
Our refineries were under repair, and over $4 billion had been invested in this by government at different times.
We have unbundled NNPC, but also at the same time tie their hands and they cannot do anything.
We demand that we need a major reform. Head must roll in the Nigerian Petroleum Corporation and even other agencies of the government that are saddled with this responsibility.
The impact on the economy and tackling the problems will in the next 3 weeks preoccupy members of the committee.
We may have to go into even the issues of the Act, the PIA. We must look back at the PIA. We have a right as a parliament.
Senator Danjuma Goje, in another motion, wants the federal government to have a second look at the Renewed Hope Legacy Infrastructure Road Project map because the entire Northeast region has been excluded.
This has stimulated unprecedented concerns and agitations from the region in view of the strategic roles these projects will play in this country.
While we are very anxious about the coastal road, the low-hanging fruit is to also start the Akwanga Jos to Gombe.
it will not be complete if the entire people of North, East, and Plateau particularly do not have a means of getting to the federal capital.
Senate, in the meantime, has suggested the use of technology to detect terrorists, insurgents and other criminals in their hideouts as they condemn and mourn victims of the recent suicide bomb attack in Goza, Borno State.
This time around, the Nigerian Army and other security forces responded promptly and gallantly. In fact, one soldier lost his life and a civilian JTF when they confronted the fifth suicide bomber that detonated the bomb and killed the three of them there.
The resurgence of suicide bombings, having consigned it to the dustbin of history in the last 5 or 6 years, is very, very unfortunate.
It costs nothing for the intelligent army to get devices in their phone. As I'm here, I check my phone regularly, and I know the number of guns that are very close to me here.
I also want to call on Mr. President to continue what he's doing. I know what he's doing. I know he's meeting every day, he's working, having sleepless night to show that, to make sure that this country becomes safe from terrorists and bandits.
Lawmakers urged the National Emergency Management Agency to assist those affected by the incident. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Meanwhile, operators in the oil and gas industry must proactively come up with improved production models to utilize oil and gas proceeds to boost investments for Nigeria and accelerate its foreign exchange earnings. Takeaways from the panel discussions on accelerating investment, enabling industry growth and meeting energy demand at the 23rd Nigeria Oil and Gas Energy Week in Abuja suggest negative media portrayal of the sector is sending the wrong message about the industry to investors. Lydia Sampson was there.
With more investors becoming strategically attuned to the demand for business models that will minimize gas flaring and deepen cleaner energy, panelists agree that harnessing the enormous hydrocarbon potential must be done speedily, as enabling prosperity is a collective responsibility.
At the moment, we are also constructing almost 100% with equity a major trunk line from Ajakuta to Kanu. And this is all aimed at supporting industries that should spring up. This is what prosperity is all about.
In the next 2 years, we anticipate that it will attract investment in the midstream and downstream of something close to 2 trillion.
A panel on defining the outlook for deep water exploration and production in Nigeria reiterated the need to give priority to deep water exploration, which accounts for 43% of Nigeria's oil production.
For the deep water, we have seen evidently that over time, we have more or less shrunk the available service companies that are doing business in the industry. And what has this translated to? It has translated to monopolistic situations.
Swiftly implemented into guidelines as the executive order from the president. So you see that when there is a move, when there is a will, there is a positive consequence with a project, tangible investment, and eventually, in 3 years, gas production for the country.
They emphasize the need for transparency and accountability in the value chains. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
Elsewhere, the 52nd ordinary session of ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council at the ministerial level is underway in Abuja. Graba Nata'ala reports that the participants include ministers and ambassadors of ECOWAS member states, billed to harmonize viewpoints on issues of regional security in the sub-region and the Sahel.
Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, chairs the Security Council meeting. However, the president of ECOWAS Commission, Omar Aliyu Taure, highlighted that in the past 1 year, the region has had about 800 terrorist incidents and recorded 7,000 deaths, with Mali and Burkina Faso mostly affected.
It is therefore crucial for every country within ECOWAS
including those in the Sahelian belt, to understand that the fight against terrorism is not the burden of a few, but a collective responsibility. We must therefore remain united and demonstrate unvacillating commitment and resolve to safeguard the lives and futures of our citizens and community.
It is the dire consequence of the disintegration on the citizens that informed the decision of the authority under the leadership of President Tinubu to open dialogue with the three countries with a view to maintaining the unity of ECOWAS.
Special representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations Office for West Africa and the Sahel, Leonardo Simayo, pledged UN's support to national regional efforts to ensure peace and stability, strengthen democracy, and good governance, with emphasis on economic empowerment. Afterwards, recommendations are expected to be submitted to their principals ahead of the 65th Ordinary Session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government for necessary action on 7th July. In Abuja, Garba Muhammad Natala, NTA News.
The Minister of Police Affairs, Ibrahim Gaida, says the federal government is committed to ensuring the safety of Nigerians by knowledge exchange, expertise and best practices in the field of security through collaboration with the Republic of Turkey. This was when the minister hosted the ambassador to Nigeria in his office in Abuja. Francis Fom reports that the minister acknowledges the complex security challenges in the country, noting that it is through collaborative efforts and shared experiences that they can effectively be addressed.
Will spare no effort in strengthening our bilateral relations, fostering greater understanding between our peoples, and exploring new avenues for cooperation in various fields. Together, we can build a more secure, prosperous, and interconnected future for our nations.
Is security cooperation and law enforcement training cooperation. These two are agreements on our side.
Meanwhile, a delegation from the United Arab Emirates Police was at the police force headquarters, Abuja, in a significant step towards fostering multifaceted security cooperation between Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates.
Far ahead of Nigeria in terms of technology, in the areas of technology. So we want our officers to come to Dubai. You help us train them in modern policing technology. We also look at other areas where we can benefit from this cooperation with Dubai.
We would like to share that experience which one you have. We will go to visit many of those departments, which one is like really, they are very strong departments in Nigerian police. And we would like in the future to have the same teams to come to Dubai also, and we can share the both experience.
The meeting concluded with a renewed pledge to deepen security ties and explore new avenues for cooperation aimed at enhancing the safety and well-being of citizens in both countries and across the West African region. Away from bilateral ties now, to further expedite the process of expanding consumer credit access to Nigerians, President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of the following qualified Nigerians to the board of the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, Credit Corp. The members include Adiremi Abdul, Board Chairman, Independent Non-Executive Director, Engineer Uzoma Nwagba, Managing Director and CEO, Aisha Abdullahi, Executive Director, Credit, Risk and Portfolio, CRO, Olanike Kolawole, Executive Director, Operations, Dr. Armstrong Ume Takang, Non-Executive Director, Mofi Nominee, Dr. Peter Iwegbu, Non-Executive Director, NIMC Nominee, Muhammad Nasiru Abbas, Non-Executive Director, FMITI Nominee, Marvin Nada, Non-Executive Director, FCCPC Nominee, FMF representative and non-executive director, FMF. The president, in a statement, expects the new members of the board of this pivotal institutional vehicle to bring their vast experience, competence, and dedication to bear in their functions to achieve Credit Corps' mandate of accelerating access to consumer credit to millions of Nigerians. Now time for our first break. Remain tuned. Thank you for staying with us. In a significant step towards addressing the housing deficit and boosting the local economy, the federal government is set to generate jobs for more than 6,500 artisans in Osun through its renewed Hope 250 units housing estate project in the state. Minister of Housing and Urban Development Ahmed Dangowa stated this at the groundbreaking ceremony of the estate in Osogbo. Femi Afariogun reports.
Spread on a large expanse of land and about 2 minutes drive from the Osun State Secretariat in Osogbo is the renewed Hope 250 housing estate. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development Ahmed Dangowa, alongside Minister of State Tijani Gwazo, with Osun State Deputy Governor Prince Kola Adewusi, performed the groundbreaking for the estate. The estate is expected to have 50 units of one-bedroom semi-detached bungalows, 150 units of two-bedroom semi-detached bungalows, and 50 units of three-bedroom semi-detached bungalows.
This is in line with the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President to stimulate economy, stimulate also inclusive growth, lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. I want to emphasize in very strong terms, if you collect government money, you must do the work within time.
Our broad aim through this program is to turn the country into a huge construction site.
Under the first phase of the project, the federal government intends to deliver 50,000 housing units to Nigerians.
We have to commend Mr. President for his magnanimity. So whatever he has hands in, we need to give our fullest support.
I also appeal to the controller, please work with the contractors. Let's see that this is delivered within time.
The renewed Hope Estate in Osun State is expected to be completed in 3 months. In Osogbo, Femi Afariogun, NTA News.
Back in Abuja, building codes in Nigeria have established minimum standards, guidelines and regulations to be observed in a civil contraction, as well as sanctions to be meted out to those who contravene these codes of ethics. With the recent recurrent building collapse disasters in parts of the Federal Capital Territory, how much of adherence to this regulatory framework do builders observe? Onotu Yakubu brings us perspective to the life-threatening industry challenge in recent times.
Flashback to July 3rd, 2023, Cafe District in the Life Camp area. A high-rising building under construction collapsed, trapping 9 site workers in the rubble. Preliminary investigation of the disaster revealed that on commencement of the project, site engineers advised the developer to stop work.
The consultant advised him personally that please don't do anything on the site, because if you do anything, it's going to collapse.
In December the same year, residents of Garki 2 were taken unaware as an old residential building caved in, killing 2 with several others rescued alive. Reports also indicated that the property owner was also advised to evacuate the structure for remedial measures. The most recent building collapse in the FCT occurred at the Unity House along the Muhammadu Buhari Way, Area 11. Preliminary report also indicated that the 4-story building, which was under restructuring, failed integrity test with the development control and other relevant monitoring and enforcement units calling for a halt on the ongoing projects.
Oftentimes, when structures are marked, it's not about demolishing that structures. It's drawing the attention of the developer to stop further development until issues are rectified. But you know, who we are in this part of the world, people hardly respect authorities. That's why you see sometimes we are hard on them. Like this structure is an existing structure that has been here for more than 20 years.
Experts say
The construction of buildings and enforcement of standards is a collective responsibility of professionals in the built environment. Geologists also advocate the enactment of framework to mandate soil examination and evaluation, taking topography into cognizance to determine viability of certain projects on specific locations. In Abuja, Onnotu Yakubu, NTA News.
And away from the civil engineering space now, insecurity and economic integration are among the pressing issues deliberated upon by governors of the southeastern states in Enugu. Chika Ugu's report is here presented.
A communique released after the closed-door meeting by the Southeast governors, read by its chairman and governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodimma, says the forum resolved to visit President Bola Tinubu to discuss pressing issues concerning the Southeast region, which includes the release of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu.
The forum deliberated on the reviewed report of the Southeast Security and Economic Summit held in Owerri on the 28th September 2023 and agreed to implement the aspects of the report pertaining to security and economic integration of the region and affirmed its desire to put actionable plans on the key issues agreed. The forum also deliberated and resolved to interface with the federal government to secure the release of Nnamdi Kanu.
The forum also received a delegation by the former president Olusegun Obasanjo, who paid a solidarity visit to the governors. In Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
Meanwhile, an appeal for out-of-court settlement on the terrorism charge against the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, is underway. Senators from the southeast region of Nigeria made a plea during a visit to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice. Dele Atumbi of our Judiciary Desk reports that the meeting between the senators and the Justice Minister was held behind closed doors.
Senators from the southeast region of the country pleaded passionately with President Bola Tinubu to order the release of Nnamdi Kanu, who is presently facing terrorism charge before the Federal High Court, being presided over by Justice Binta Nyako. The senators, led by former Abia State Deputy Governor, Senator Ihinaya Abaribe, claimed that unless Kanu is released, the socio-economic activities in the southeast region will continue to be stagnant. The senators appealed to President Tinubu to release Kanu on compassionate ground. Addressing newsmen immediately after the closed-door meeting with the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi SAN, Abaribe, who spoke on behalf of his colleagues, lamented that the economy and social life in the southeast region had suffered enough due to the continued incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu. Abaribe claimed with grave concern that the peaceful demand of the detained IPOB leader had been hijacked by hoodlums and hardened criminals, leading to wanton killings of innocent people, including security operatives. The former Abia State Deputy Governor said he had already met with Kanu at the headquarters of the Department of State Service in Abuja on Monday, and that Kanu had agreed to abide by any conditional release. Senator Abaribe expressed optimism that once Kanu is released, the tension and acrimony engulfing the southeast region since 2021, when he was clamped into DSS custody, will become event of the past. The appeal to the AGF is that of Nolly, confers on the sitting Attorney General of the Federation by the Constitution.
Because we know that at the end of the day, everything that happens in the political, in the legal scheme will eventually come to his office. And we came to appeal to him to help us to let Mr. President know that all leaders of the Southeast feel that the release of Nnamdi Kanu will help in dousing all the tensions and everything that is going on in the Southeast.
It will be recalled that Nnamdi Kanu was rearrested in Kenya in 2021 by the federal government and brought to the country for trial on terrorism charge. Kanu has since been in the custody of the DSS on the order of the Federal High Court, Abuja Division. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
In other news, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, says the Nigerian Army is executing military-civil community projects across the country to cement relationship with communities for a healthy living. He stated this while inaugurating some projects in Mangu and Riam local government areas of Plateau State. Bikusu Nuhu reports.
The Chief of Army Staff is in Plateau State in connection with the 2024 Nigerian Army Day celebration. As part of activities to mark the celebration, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja inaugurated 3 projects in Mangu local government area of the state. They are a block of 3 classrooms, motorized borehole at Mangun Central Primary School, and a public convenience initiated in honor of an illustrious son of the community, Major General Godwin Mutkut.
Our civil-military cooperation projects are also executed in communities of serving Major Generals who have distinguished themselves and contributed to the operational and administrative successes of the Nigerian Army.
It was jubilation at Tahos community of Riom local government area as the Chief of Army Staff also performed similar ceremony. Governor Caleb Mutfwang, represented by the Secretary to the Government of the state, as well as Ms. Kagam Magavul, appreciated the military for the gesture.
We will not take this for granted and we will continue to have a very good symbiotic relationship with the Nigerian Army.
We are really happy for the synergy between the Chief of Army Staff and his commanding officers, which brought about the realization of these 3 projects.
Meanwhile, the grand finale of the 2024 Nigerian Army Day celebration is expected to hold on Saturday this week at the Rukuba Barracks, Jos. In Jos, Bilkisu Nuhu, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu has charged the executive and legislative arms of government to create more channels for Nigerians to express their concerns and participate in policy formulation. This was his message to the Legislative Open Week, organized by the House of Representatives. National Assembly correspondent Mitari Ikpe reports.
Citizens are given access to the National Assembly for the open week of the House of Representatives.
An open parliament is the cornerstone of a thriving democracy.
Speaker Tajuddin Abbas says it is a unique opportunity to engage directly with the public and promote accountability.
By opening our doors, we invite scrutiny and dialogue, which are essential for improving governance and strengthening democratic institutions.
To engendering a more inclusive and democratic legislative process.
When citizens are engaged, they become active partners.
President Tinubu's representative, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, emphasizes that national challenges require greater citizens' engagement.
We must engage through town hall meetings because not all citizens have the means to come to Abuja.
Ministers and former presiding officers of the House could not agree less.
Anybody has anything more efficient or effective, let us debate it.
The necessity for engagement and talking with the people at all times is an absolute necessary ingredient for a healthy democratic journey.
Because it gives people information of what is going on, rather than hearing on the airwaves.
And at forums like this, I suggest, Mr. Speaker, that nothing should be off limits.
Over 65% of our people that are living below the poverty line. So standing here to make any excuses about our salaries, about our allowances, will not be entertained by Nigerians.
1 year scorecard of the House was unveiled to the public, revealing the passage of 89 bills, including the Federal Audit Service Act Amendment Bill 2023 to strengthen financial oversight and transparency. For 3 days, the 10th House of Representatives will be open to citizens' scrutiny and interactions, and everyone expects that these interactions will touch the issues that touch the masses.
From the National Assembly, Mitaire Ikpen, NTA News.
Many thanks, Mutari. Also, following intense technical sessions on moves to reposition 2 gender bills by the 10th Assembly, adoptable recommendations have been made to fast-track consideration for passage. Elizabeth Omori reports on the outcome of the 2-day event.
Recommendations to drive legislative responses to reposition the 2 gender bills, HB 191 Bill to amend Sexual Offences Act Amendment Bill and HB 342 Bill for an Act to establish the National Council for Public Assistance to Widows, Dependent Children and Orphans have been drawn by key actors in human rights affairs.
We will no longer use the name National Council for Widows and Orphans and Vulnerable Children, but we will now change it a National Agency for Widowhood, Orphans and Vulnerable Children Assistance in Nigeria.
Local communities, a lot goes on there. So for us to have an agency that can look into this, it's truly a welcome idea.
Deliberations also centered on review of the Sexual Offences Act Amendment Bill with proposition to some innovative provisions of the Act to be moved to ongoing review of the VAP Act.
The Act covers a lot of provisions on disability rights and child rights, and so we also agreed that those provisions be used as an advocacy messaging.
Meanwhile, at the day 1 of the roundtable, Speaker of the House of Representatives, in his message to participants, assures of swift responses for passage of the bills.
I'm ready to take the necessary legislative actions for them. Together, we can create a more just, equitable, and compassionate society for all.
It is expected that when these bills are reconsidered, offences against widows are prosecuted and a more gender-inclusive society is built. Elizabeth Omori.
Let's take another quick break. News Extra continues shortly. Welcome back. Facts are sacred. Comments are free, is a quote credited to C.P. Scott, the founder of the Guardian newspaper in the UK, which implies that experts in various fields of endeavor are free to express objective views which may be at variance with those officially held. Expressing these views informatively and constructively, social observers say, is a pathway to strengthening Nigeria's democratic process. Let's get details from Ayodeji Makinde.
Nigeria's democratic space has over the years grappled with highs and lows. The lows are major concern for these experts who converged in Abuja for a high-level meeting on enhancing citizens' participation and protecting dissent in Nigeria by Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP.
A greater percentage of Nigerians only feel free to express critical views that appears to be critical of government policies, actions with their friends and families and colleagues. That means that they do not feel they are free to do it in public.
Lead research consultant Professor Elijah Okebukola noted that dissent is recognized in the Nigerian law but has been limited to closed circuit conversation and when expanded through media platforms often attracts sanctions.
Posting dissenting political views on social media, you find that those that have formal education were more involved in posting dissenting views on social media than those without formal education.
We are not a rubber stamp National Assembly. Last week, we had a situation where the executive arm of government reached out, sent a letter, an executive bill to amend the provisions of the 2023 Appropriation Act and 2023 Supplementary Appropriation Act. And there was dissent about it.
Strategic Partners advocates for protection of human rights to dissent as it safeguards democratic process in Nigeria. They call for factual and evidence-based reportage in the media and a joint effort against misuse of social media space. In Abuja, Ayodeji Makinde, NTA News.
Let's turn our attention somewhere else now, as 25 to 30% of landfills are dedicated to plastics, including styrofoams, which take at least 500 years to decompose. Single-use plastics or styrofoams are reported to be the primary source of urban deaths and major pollutant of oceans and seas. The use of these harmful items in ministries, departments, and agencies of government has been banned. But concerns remain. How informed are the manufacturers and the people that consume them? Charles Alpha will attempt to answer that question.
Styrofoam, widely known as takeaway pack, used by food vendors such as these ones behind me. Plastic, all single-use. Do you know that they constitute one of the biggest environmental health challenges?
Single-use plastics, experts say, contains polystyrene, which leaches into food and drinks, causing contamination. The production, use and disposal of polystyrene have shown releases toxic chemicals responsible for Parkinson's disease, irritation of the skin, eyes, as well as creating of large amounts of greenhouse gases.
Nigeria generates on an annual basis an estimated amount of about 32 million tons of solid waste. Out of that, about 15% translating to about 5 million tons.
The effects of that is that we find that the plastics will find their way onto our tables. And if it gets into the food chain, it gets into our human bodies, then it affects our health.
It is these alarming health problems posed by the use of single-use plastics or styrofoam. The federal government decided to ban the use of the items in ministries, departments, and agencies.
If we are able to get about 1.5 million Nigerians persuaded and adequately implementing this kind of ban, it will be easier for us to scale it up at a national scale.
In finding an alternative to styrofoams or single-use plastics, restaurants and food service brands have been encouraged to use compostable containers.
Rather than buying plastic water bottles, why not have a reusable water bottle?
We're also encouraging the research around the use of bamboo for some of these products.
Styrofoam or single-use plastic, we have been told, take over 500 years to decompose. And this is because it is non-biodegradable. And the kind of chemical they emit into the environment make them most dangerous air pollutants affecting man and his environment. In Abuja, Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Now, a new national minimum wage has been at the center of national discourse for quite some time now. Well, our correspondent, Ignatius Nko, will take us down memory lane on minimum wages approved over the years and provide insights on the processes.
Well, the issue of the national minimum wage has been topical for some time now. Well, the history of the national minimum wage can be traced to 1981, when the first national minimum wage bill was signed into law at 125 naira per month. And then in 1990, Nigeria had a second minimum wage of 250 naira. In 1999, a new national minimum wage of 3,500 naira came on board. And then in 2000, Nigeria had her fourth national minimum wage of 5,500 and 7,500 naira for various categories of workers. That was the year that Nigeria witnessed two separate amounts of national minimum wage running concurrently for different categories of workers. And in 2019, Nigeria had a sixth and currently running national minimum wage of 30,000 naira. Now, in 2024, the 2019 Minimum Wage Act has elapsed, and a new one is in the offing. And that one that coming up is expected to be the seventh national minimum wage for Nigeria. And we expect that any moment from now, the National Assembly will enact the next national minimum wage. Well, the history of the review in Nigeria's national minimum wage cannot be exhaustive without the mention of the famous Udoji Award. Well, that was in 1970s when the then head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, engaged Jerome Udoji, a public servant, to head a commission on the review of workers' salaries. And that commission produced 100% wage increase for workers across board. and it was backdated and paid in 2 years arrears, and that laid the foundation for the regular wage review in Nigeria. And that's what we have for you this night on the wage review in Nigeria.
Many thanks, Ignatius, the historian. Of course, workers are looking forward to a new minimum wage. Can't wait to hear the numbers. Benny, what's the speculation as regards to minimum wage?
Well, more of those figures, as well as more jobs to be created. Welcome to Business News. Now, the renewed hope agenda for creation of jobs for millions of Nigerian youth is beginning to yield results as the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, through the National Talent Export Program, is set to begin export of talents and services to the global community. This is as the National Talent Export Program, in collaboration with German Agency for International Cooperation, GIZ, has begun a training of the first set of prospects to Germany. National Coordinator of NATEB, Dr. Femi Adelui, says the partnership is to not only facilitate the export of Nigerian expertise, but also to spur job creation domestically through international avenues.
We have the partnership with UTEL. The jobs are about to be announced and people will be selected and the people can go to Kuwait for the first batch. We have a partnership with San Francisco African American Chamber of Commerce, which is, in a stage where we're fine-tuning things, and it's even likely to be bigger than all the other ones we're doing. So we're doing a whole lot. We just want to announce them as they become, they get to that stage where you can see a lot of visibility. The jobs we're targeting are not jobs that are currently in Nigeria, they're jobs that are outside, so that we can get jobs and also get foreign exchange into the country.
Adelui says the 10 million skill-up artisans and the 3 million tech talents programs of the federal government are the talent banks for the country, as government focuses on insurance, medical, professionals, artisans, creative and technology sectors. Now, experts are unanimous that the application of technology in tax collection is key to blocking leakages and increasing remittances. The Executive Chairman, Federal Land Revenue Service, Zach Adidiji, urged the subnationals to step up efforts towards the deployment of technology to block leakages and enhance tax administration for the overall benefit of the people.
At this critical point in time, it is necessary to strengthen the fabric of IGR capacity to ensure that the revenue administration process, especially the subnational level, become as efficient as possible to optimize collection of IGR for socio-economic and human development.
Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has commended the contributions of the Capital Market Academics of Nigeria towards the development of the country's financial sector. This is as the minister was conferred with the prestigious Fellowship Award of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria. President of CIMAN, Professor Uche Walike, who conducted the investiture alongside other members, say the honor is in recognition of the contributions of the minister to the development of the nation's financial sector. Capital Market Academics of Nigeria is the umbrella body of senior researchers both in the public and private sectors committed to the development of Nigeria's financial sector. And a quick look at the markets. Investors gained 131.08 billion naira as the all-share index advanced by 0.23% to close 100,299.48 basis points. A total of 342.1 million shares in 7,592 deals corresponding to a market value of 4.752 billion naira were traded. Today's data shows 6% decline in volume, 15% improvement in turnover, but 12% decline in deals. The current market capitalization is 56.7 trillion naira, and on the aggregate, 126 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 29 gainers and 19 losers. Fidelity Bank recorded the highest volume of traded shares, followed by Universal Insurance Company and ICO Insurance with 14.9 million. That is Business News. News Extra continues with Yenri Jan. Yenri, you can take it from here.
Well, thanks, Benny. Always nice doing business with you. by the way. All right, now the Renewed Hope initiative of the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has embarked on distribution of rice to Rivers women to complement the efforts of the state government. Osinachi Samuel reports that wife of Rivers State Governor Valerie Fubara made a cash donation to support the scheme in Government House, Port Harcourt.
No longer news that the rising cost of foodstuffs and other essential commodities have given rise to many families being unable to meet up with this responsibility. There appears to be hope in the horizon for Rivers women with the renewed hope interventions of the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, in ensuring that Nigerian women and their children are catered for.
Part of our own little way, we also attached cash to the bags of rice. We are disbursing 25 because the National Council for Women's Society are also receiving. The 23 LGAs are also receiving, and non-indigenous are also receiving. Every LGA is going with 90 bags of rice.
The excited women representatives from the 23 local government areas of Rivers State are grateful for the gesture and promised to make sure the food and cash gift gets to the poorest of the poor in the rural communities.
The governor's wife deemed it fit to also add some funds to it to enable the recipients have something to cook with.
We are proud of our Excellency, our governor's wife, for even supporting, adding to what the president's wife has given to us.
Even if it is one rubber that goes round, the people are willingly waiting. I want to say a very big thank you to you, Excellency, for at this major time, this critical time, remembering the people.
The Renewed Hope initiative in the past 1 year has empowered women in agriculture, supported the elderly, and donated exercise books to schools, among other interventions.
And the women in this hall are to take this food down to the local government, to the wards, to the unit, to ensure that every single woman in Rivers State gets access to food.
In Port Harcourt, Osinachi Samuel, NTA News.
Another break is due. More extras to come. All right, many thanks for staying with us. The federal government says soon all institutions of learning in the country will be mandated to incorporate practice skills in curriculums as the policy document is at its final stage. Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Maman, said this while assessing the conduct of the National Business and Technical Examinations in Abuja. Zenret Digmon reports that this year, 67,751 candidates are sitting for the examination nationwide.
However, the minister could not resist testing knowledge of some of the students. Satisfied with the conduct of the examinations, the minister says the federal government is relentless in ensuring business and technical education thrives in the country, emphasizing that focus is also being beamed on enhancing girl-child involvement in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education.
What is happening here is a typical example of what we are taking the entire education sector through, where students and pupils, learners acquire skills right from the foundation, basic education level. And as you heard from him, there are varieties of trades which students learn here. And people from outside in those industries, they are already coming to seek them out. And this is going to be a game changer for the country.
We want to build for Nigeria middleman power, which is what we believe will help us on issues of unemployment and also help us for the development of the country.
NAPTEP registrar also reiterated the advantages of its certificate, adding the opportunities it offers students.
You get the skill certificate. They can also do other things. They can go to the university. It gives them room to go anywhere, to progress.
Nigeria's educational sector, they say, will soon be saturated with skills training centers and programs. In Abuja, Zenret Digmon, NTA News.
From provision of school infrastructure to supporting young persons with scholarship opportunities to pursue tertiary education, the Borno State government is all out investing in the education sector for socio-economic development of the state. Pauline Kuje-Vana reports on the scholarship scheme of the state government, which stakeholders say is impactful both in and outside the education sector.
Borno State has long been synonymous with challenges, yet amidst such, emerged progress in the education sector, notably rebuilt infrastructure and nurturing a generation poised to lead Nigeria into a future defined by quality education. Since May 2019, the Borno State government, under the leadership of Governor Babagana Umar Zulum, has embarked on an unprecedented initiative to empower its citizens with a steadfast commitment to nurturing talent and fostering academic excellence by disbursing about 10 billion naira as scholarship support to students at various tertiary level of education.
Investment in series of scholarships for both local and international scholarships where undergraduate and also masters and PhD students also benefited from it. Indeed, these gestures and the welfare can be placed on a competition with any other state's government.
We have spent over 1 billion naira sponsoring nurses to study in our colleges of nursing. We have spent billions in ensuring that we sponsor students overseas.
A significant milestone in this journey is the recent additional allocation of 5.5 billion naira specifically for 524 Borno State indigenes pursuing postgraduate studies in science, technology, engineering and mathematics, STEM fields, both locally and abroad.
They have given me full scholarship to study MSc Environmental Management at Kampala International University, Uganda.
This initiative not only aims to equip the state's bright minds with the necessary skills to compete globally, but also bolster Nigeria's capacity in critical sectors.
The governor wants to leave office with very, very minimal out-of-school children. So we are going to fight Boko Haram head-on by ensuring that every child gets access to school and gets qualitative education.
Executive Secretary of the Borno State Scholarship Board, Dr. Bala Isa, has been instrumental in streamlining the registration process, ensuring accessibility and transparency.
We have about 13,000 new students who are coming on board. We had them on our dashboard and we are currently preparing their scholarship. And then we have about 15,959 students who are our existing students whom we have their data with us.
His efforts have resulted in 13,012 students successfully enrolling in the scholarship program during the last registration drive.
I heard other students have been enjoying it, so I decided to apply it this year. We are hoping that we will enjoy it too.
These scholarships are more than just support. They empower students to dream beyond the insurgency challenges in Borno, inspiring them to become agents for change in the states and beyond. In Maiduguri, Pauline Kuje-Vana, NTA News.
Still talking education, nurturing future generations on the rudiments of broadcasting has been part of the corporate social responsibility of the Nigerian Television Authority. This was exemplified when students from the Broadcasting, Film and Multimedia Department, University of Abuja, visited the NTA headquarters in Abuja for a tour. Ruth Aguele reports.
It was a day like no other for students of the Department of Broadcasting, Film and Multimedia from the University of Abuja. This visit to the headquarters of the Nigerian Television Authority is part of the process in nurturing their skills in the broadcasting field. The first stop was the engine room of news production, where the students were guided on daily news production, from collating of story ideas, news gathering to scripting, reporting, editing, and quality control.
The quality control personnel will still preview that film to know whether the reporter, whether there's a grammatic error, whether there is a misspelling on the name of a respondent, all that.
To get a clearer picture of how daily transmission of news broadcasts is achieved, the students were taken on a tour around the studio to get a glimpse of the advanced technology that now reckons with the Nigerian Television Authority.
If you're producing environmental program, you must get pictures of environment, either floor, maybe forest, then you put it, and then you carry the subject and superimpose on the background.
The students also had a chance to be part of the weekly editorial training, organized by the News Directorate for staff. It was an opportunity for the students to ask questions on the standards of NTA in the areas of its authenticity, reliability, and visual output, especially as the largest broadcast station in Nigeria.
NTA is the only television station in Nigeria that is established by an act of parliament. What does that mean? It means that we are regulated. There are rules, there are mandates that NTA must follow.
It is on your phones. As you are standing here and I check NTA on YouTube, you see us there. When you watch our news for 5 minutes, they're very big, less than 5 minutes. We display all our social media handles for you to go there and see what we have.
So we are also in the process of doing that. We are in a process of transition. Part of what we are doing today is helping us to move into that area. We have in Usairi, we have in Iroepe, we have in Benin. NTA is the only television station looking for you.
To appreciate NTA for the opportunity, the visiting students made a presentation to the News Directorate.
I've seen how everything is being done, how modernized it has become, up to the extent that it is always on. Like I watched on YouTube live.
Keep on practicing to be listening to news and NTA, especially because you can get legit news from the station.
I know that NTA has a good graphics, of course, and it's very clear, and it's the best TV station.
It's going to have a lot of transformation in their lives. Reason being that they are not going to think the way they used to, because they know exactly what they are going in for.
Equipped with the requisite skills on the rudiments of broadcasting, memories of this visit will no doubt linger on as they continue to tread on the path of fulfilling their dreams. In Abuja, Ruth Aguele, NTA News.
Away from education matters now, INEC office in Ukum local government area of Benue State has been attacked and burnt down. The incident occurred at 2 p.m. today, Wednesday, 3rd July 2024, when the youths in the area said to be protesting against the activities of bandits attacked facilities of government agencies, including INEC. Although no casualty was recorded, the building was extensively damaged. Office furniture and other movable and immovable materials, including 10 electric generators, 300 ballot boxes and 270 voting cubicles were destroyed in the attack. A statement by the National Commissioner for Information, Sam Olumekun, says the incident has been reported to security agencies and personnel already deployed to the area. In other news, Nigeria's Special Presidential Envoy on Climate Action, Ajuri Ngelale, has hosted the leadership of the United Kingdom Nigeria Infrastructure Advisory Facility for a briefing to align the partnership with President Bola Tinubu's plans for private sector-led, public sector-enabled green industrial development. He also held a virtual discussion with the Managing Director of the World Economic Forum Center for Nature and Climate, Ms. Jim Hui, during which we agreed to actionable next actions that will ensure greater collaboration with international investors and in accordance with the Green Industrial Roadmap. Similarly, the Special Presidential Envoy and his team also hosted a fruitful session with a delegation from the German Embassy, led by its head of climate negotiations, Ambassador Jones Lin. Specific steps towards deepening collaboration on hydrogen and wind energy development were agreed upon, with a follow-up next week. Time for another break. Stay with us. Let's take a look at the foreign scene now as a stampede in India resulting in the death of 121 people is now under investigation while migrants pause in the Amazon to keep their journey en route to the USA active, not minding the living conditions. Kulu Mohammed tells us more on these and more on the global scene.
Was rushed when the Babaska left, following his current foot to get a closer look at him. Most people fell and were crushed as they tried to help each other stay up and safe. As the crowd forces to way closer to the preacher's car, his guards push them away. Most migrants say they are ready to leave behind life struggles in their homeland and can trail all paths, including spending time in unbelievable shelters to ensure their journey towards the U.S. remain active. Like anywhere along migrants' roads towards hope for new lives, local communities are finding it hard to meet population needs. Hurricane Beryl barreled towards Jamaica as a powerful Category 4 storm on Wednesday after flattening homes and devastating agricultural lands on smaller islands in the Eastern Caribbean. The hurricane is expected to bring life-threatening winds and storm surges to Jamaica, Dominican Republic and Haiti, as well as Cayman Islands. Hurricane conditions are expected to drive further to reach Jamaican coast with tropical storm strength winds in the coming days. In Kingston, Jamaica, cars queued up at petrol stations as people filled additional containers with fuel. Residents stocked up on water and other essential supplies. Kulu Mohammed, NTA.
President Bola Tinubu extends his condolences to the family of late Kabir Yusuf, who passed away on Tuesday. Mr. Yusuf, a veteran journalist, was the Federal Capital Territory correspondent for the Triumph newspaper and Radio France International Hausa. He covered the State House for many years until his passing. The president prays for the repose of the soul of the departed and comfort to his family, especially in this time of grief. Also, sadly, the death has occurred. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, sympathizes with the Deputy Governor of Niger State, Garba Yakubu, over the death of his wife, Hajia Zainab. The minister describes late Zainab as a remarkable woman whose kindness and dedication touched the lives of many. The minister says her demise is a huge loss, not only to Niger State, but the nation in general. Her praise for the repose of her soul and fortitude for the Deputy Governor and his entire family to bear the irreparable loss. Also, sadly, the death has occurred of late retired Reverend Kasua Tamiyi Zamani, aged 90. He died on the 14th of June after a brief illness. Late Reverend Zamani, who during his life, apart from his missionary activities, promoted education in the rural area in the then Baptist Missionary of Shandam and Abuja Home Mission Fields, now in the present Plateau, Nasarawa States, and the FCT. He will be buried tomorrow in his residence at Masaka, Karo Local Government Council of Nasarawa State, after a funeral service at Ekwa 2, Masaka, Karo Local Government Area of Nasarawa State at 11 a.m. Late Reverend Kasua Tamiyi Zamani is survived by his children, grand and great-grandchildren. Amongst them, his children is Andrew Zamani of the Nasarawa State University, Kefi, and former president, Nigerian Psychological Association. And that concludes News Extra tonight. Many thanks for being a part of it. Have a good night.